17th, and the latest TIDE user guide is now posted on the meta.sbac.org website. It's under the Questions tab and then Test Administration. And another question, do practice tests have closed captioning, ASL, or accommodation testing? Are they available on the training test? And can we test accommodations on the secure browser? Practice tests do have accommodations, for example, color contrast, text-to-speech, ASL, and Braille. The training test has all the accommodations. Again, see the OPI schedule and quick facts document, pages 28 and 29 for all that information. This document, again, is now on the Meta-SBAC website. The February 5th JUMP newsletter also refers to several documents that were recently added to our website that address accommodations, and you might be able to find a lot of information there to answer other questions you may not have asked yet. And finally, how do we know how much time to schedule for students in the computer labs for the field test? For an overview of testing times per test and subject and grade level, see the OPI schedule and quick facts document once again, pages 32 to 35. Also, view our February 18th Digital Media Blast today to learn more about testing your bandwidth and running the SBAC Technology Readiness Calculator to determine the number of hours needed to take the field test in your school. And that is the answering all the questions that we had last week. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Christine. Now, do you anticipate that we're going to continue this format of answering questions before each blast, the follow-up questions? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think it's important that we have this information available to everyone, and I will also be posting these answers on the blast area of the meta.sbac.org website.
Excellent. Okay, and I know you've done some personal follow-up with some people also. So the most important thing is to get everybody information and get questions answered as quickly and accurately as possible, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, we're about 30 seconds away from starting this week's blast, so I hope there's a few more attendees that sign in real quickly here, and we'll get started. Thanks, Christine, and we'll see you at the end of this week's blast for some Q&A, okay. Correct?
Yes. Thank
awesome.
you, Kathleen.
Okay. Bye. Alrighty, it is time to start our Volume 2 Digital Media Blast. It's a blast of information about SBAC technology readiness, and this week the topic is speed tests and network readiness. Just a reminder of how the blast works. You have clicked into a link for a webinar, but the format is like a radio show, so your microphone and cameras are disabled. You can listen to the guest presenter, and there is a question box over on the right-hand side of your screen. You can type in questions at any time during the blast, and at the end of the 5 to 7 to 10 minute presentation, we will start answering your questions, and so please be sure you put those in there. We'd also like to hear any topics you would like to hear about. The answers to your questions will be addressed by the facilitator and presenter. And a reminder that these blasts are archived. They're recorded and archived on the meta.sbac.org website, so you can always go into them and hear them again or give them to other folks out there who might need some information. There's also quick information sheets on blast topics. So some of the talking points from these will be on those information sheets right along with the blast link. And blasts occur every Tuesday from 9:30 to 9:50 on SBAC Technology Readiness. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. I'm Kathleen Dent. I'm an educational consultant and the facilitator for the blasts. And the blasts are also brought to you by the Montana Digital Professional Learning Network. And Curtis Biggs is here in the background helping us out with the technology. Today's blast guest presenter is none other than Gary Toombs, who's the Roundup Technology Director, and he is going to help us answer the question, how do I determine if my school's network and hardware are ready for the SBAC? So with that, I'm going to turn over my microphone and presentation to Gary. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you, Kathleen.
You know, Gary, your microphone's still a little fuzzy, so you might want to try and re-plug it in. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. I'm going to mute myself and turn off my web camera and let you go.
Thank you. This morning's presentation is about some tools that you can use to check your network, hardware, and internet connection to make sure that your district, your schools are ready for the SBAC test. We're going to talk a little bit about a network speed test, an SBAC diagnostic tool, and a Smarter Balance technology readiness calculator. Next, Step 1, the speed test. There are a number of speed tests available to use. The one that's linked here is the one recommended by the Office of Public Instruction and SBAC itself. The purpose of the speed test is to decide and find out exactly what the bandwidth is of your internet connection. Your internet service provider may tell you that you have 10 megs or 50 megs or 100 megs. But when you go to do the speed test, it will decide what your link is, how fast that link is, and the bandwidth you really have. My suggestion is that you do the school speed test a number of times over a week or two in order to check your internet connection during times of high use and minimal use to get an accurate speed of your network. This network speed test will then give you a result that you need to kind of track and get an average for. So for example, in Roundup Elementary, we connected on it, we put in our zip code. It gives me a list of all the schools. Once I've done that, I can choose whatever school I'm in and run the speed test. So next, on this one, it shows Roundup Elementary, we had a download speed of 3.62 and an upload speed of 0.81. So I will track that over a period of a week or two and come up with an average. Next. The SBAC diagnostic test also does a speed test, but it does it with the idea that you are going to put in the number of students you need or want to test at one time. It also will help you decide if your hardware is ready, in that it will check your browser and it will check your operating system. Next. So this is the diagnostic screen that comes up. It will show you immediately the operating system you're using, the browser you're using if you're not using the secure browser, and then it will allow you to check your diagnostics, your network diagnostics, by choosing the test. Where it says select a test, you will have math or ELA. Then you will put in the number of students you'd like to test at one time. If you have a lab of 25, you would put 25 in there. Then you can click Run Network Diagnostic Test, and it will give you a result. Next. As you see, the result comes up and tells me that my current load on my system will allow me to test the number of students at that location. I have picked the math test, 70 students at once, gave me approximately the same download and upload results, but it did tell me that I can check 70 students. You could also continue that up. If you're going to test 70 at one time, you might try putting in 100 or 150 students and running that test just to make sure you have enough bandwidth. Next. The third tool is a technology readiness calculator. You will need to find out or decide how many students you want to test at one time, how many computers you're going to have available to test those students at the same time, how many hours per day that you want to use that lab to test, and then your internet connection speed. Next. So we put in the number of students we're going to test, 25, 50, 75, the number of computers available. Obviously, the students and the computers available should match up closely. The number of hours per day that you want to test, and the speed that's come from your speed test results. Then you click Calculate, next, and you will receive the results. You'll notice that we put in 700 students. We have the number of students available in our school would be 120. Computer hours available, we decided 4 hours per day. And our internet connection speed at that building is 20 megabits. Hit Calculate. It tells me that we're going to test. We have probably 11.67 days that we would need to have the computer lab available to test. Shows that my bandwidth is 2.4 megabits, and we're using about 12% of the total bandwidth to run that test. Next. So, if you have any questions, and the links to this and all the other information are available at the Meta website. We would appreciate if you go there, check things out, and get your questions answered. Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Gary. That is a lot of information in a short bit of time. The takeaways from today, remember last week we talked about the Meta SBAC checklist. Well, these steps help you complete that. So your school speed test, your network diagnostic, and the readiness calculator, the links are right there for you, and they're also on the takeaway sheet on the Meta SBAC website. So lots of information in a short bit of time. We're going to go to questions and answers, I think. Yeah, so hopefully you've been typing your questions into the question box on the right side of the screen. Christine Day is going to come on and be our facilitator, and she and Gary will help answer any of the questions. And you can type in follow-up questions. There may be a few of you who we allow your microphones to be enabled if that's necessary. And remember, if we can't answer it today, a follow-up time will be set. So Christine, are you on, and are you ready to go with some questions?
I am, but there are no questions at this time.
Wow, you're kidding. We did that good of a job? All right. Well, does anybody out there have any questions about SBAC in general? Oh, okay. I think we've got a question coming in. Christine, did you want to add anything to what Gary said?
No, Gary did an excellent job. I think those are definitely the basics of what everyone needs to know. The important thing is when you do your speed test to make sure that you do it more than once at different times of the day, because the resources are different depending upon what classes are meeting and what they're doing during the day.
Yeah, really good point. Also, I think one of the important parts of having these blasts every week is to get the state educators familiar with the Meta members and other people out there who have pieces and parts of these answers as we're rolling forward for the field test. It's a pretty complex operation, and a lot of people out there have a lot of expertise. So even just getting familiar with Gary in Roundup, if you have questions about speed tests, you could email him, I'm sure, and he could help you through it, and the Meta resources that'll be available on the website in the next month or so. So it's good just to get people familiar with what's out there. Wouldn't you agree, Christine?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
So I still don't see any questions up on this screen.
Oh, Curtis says there's 5. So I'm not sure.
I don't know why, Curtis, but I cannot see any questions on my screen.
Okay. Maybe Curtis can relay a question to me and then you can answer it. Just a second. We're reconfiguring here.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Curtis is the director of the Montana Digital Professional Learning Network. Okay. Curtis, where were the tools located again? Is the question, Christine?
Okay.
From Wyatt Flory.
Okay. The tools that we discussed today, the links to those tools are all listed in our website, metasbac.org, under questions and under networking. So you can go directly to those links from our website, so you don't have to look anyplace else. We do have the links on the screen, and we will put this.
Okay. Christine, our friend Kirk Miller.
SBAC.org.
Oh, sorry. Our friend Kirk Miller, who is the SAM Executive Director, is asking, in a larger school district, should these tests be run for each school?
The answer is yes. Not every school's network is the same, and the equipment isn't necessarily the same in each school. So depending upon what kind of switches, routers, hubs, even the computers that you are using and the network cards in those computers, it is important to do the test from the lab area that or classroom, whatever you're going to be using, that you're going to be testing from.
Okay, Christine, can you see the questions yet? Curtis, I think, just gave you those rights. But if not, I'll relay
see them now. Yes, yes. Okay,
Woohoo!
so
we love
now
technology.
let me go through. Okay, does the text-to-speech content sound the same on the pilot test? Ooh. From what I've been reading up on the accommodations, the accommodation practice tests and training tests are all set up identical to the way you will see it on the field test. And I assume that there shouldn't be any difference on that. So again, next week we will be doing a blast on accommodations. So stay tuned. We are getting more information. So we are for next week, and we will probably be having some representatives from OPI there to answer some of these questions as well. But I will find out if the sound is the same. But I would think it would be the same, because if you're doing it on the same computer, it would have the same sound card in it. So I would think that it would be the same. And let me see if there's any other questions here. And I'm only seeing these. Wait. There it is. When will the blast on accommodation occur? I think I just answered that question. It will be next Tuesday, the 26th, and we are looking forward to that one because we have an awful lot of questions on that particular area. And the next one, Mindy Obert is asking, the SBAC information keeps referring to information regarding other browsers. Are we supposed to use only the SBAC secure browser when testing? It is my understanding that the secure browser is the one that's supposed to be used when you're testing. And I do not have an answer as to why they're referring to those other browsers, but I will, Mindy, I will get that one answered for you. I will call SBAC on that one. And excuse me while I write this down. Well, I'll get that later. Okay, can we use scratch paper in their own calculators? Unfortunately, Kelly, I don't have the answer to that question. And that is, I do believe, though, that is another item that's answered in that one that I referred to earlier, the OPI scheduling quick facts document. And I do want to point you to that. It is now on our website under the questions tab and under test administration. So there are an awful lot of resources there for accommodations, as well as the OPI scheduling quick facts document, which is just loaded with information. And I do think that you should read through that if you haven't. Also refer to the February 5th JUMP newsletter, which has a lot of current information on there as well. And another question on what is next week's blast going to cover, and again, that's going to be accommodations with an OPI representative there to help answer questions. Can Christine speak to the SBAC calculator result for bandwidth utilization? I think that I will ask Gary to speak more about that, since I don't have as much field experience with that. But I will briefly say that that the results may be a little bit different than the other speed tests, but again, it is out there to help you decide how many students you will you'll be testing, and then deciding that to be used for that technology readiness calculator. So the diagnostic tool and the speed test is what you use to put information into the calculator to get your the information on the bandwidth utilization. Gary, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. We tried it with a number of different numbers of students. We tried it in all of our buildings.
Gary,
We were
excuse me,
comfortable with the
you're
results.
you're very muffled. Can you fix your microphone really quickly?
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. We tried it in each of our buildings a number of different times with a number of different students, pushing the limits to find out exactly where our district and those individual buildings would be. If we could test the 70 students we wanted, we ran up to 200 students on the speed tests just to make sure that we could test the numbers we wanted.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Colette, I hope that answered your question. If not, go ahead and put another question in. Okay, we have a few minutes left here, and another one from Rod White. Could you please put the websites for calculator and speed tests up? Could you go ahead and go back to that, Kathleen, and show those sites again? You can get to those from our metasbac.org website.
Sure. These, is that what you needed to see?
I believe so.
Okay. And it is, I want to be respectful of people's time. It's just about time to end up. So what I'm going to do is go to the ending slides, and then we will stay on a little longer if we need to answer some more questions. I think most of them in the question boxes have been answered. So Christine, you might want to just scan them while I'm finishing up here. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, there's quite a few on here. There's one on accommodation sessions.
Okay,
that
yeah.
one I think I'll answer that one later because that one take a little while. Colette
Okay.
was saying again, in other words, what does the 12% mean on that diagnostic
Christine,
result?
can you hang on just a second? I'm going to go through the ending slides, and then we can continue the
I'm so
question
sorry.
and answer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Just remember that you can get more information at the www.metasbac.org website. That's where all things assessment are going to be going. As we've said several times, Tuesday, February 25th from 9:30 to 9:50, we will start to bite into preparing for accommodations, mostly the technology issues with that, but we will have Q&A time and realize that in 20 minutes that's a big topic, and we'll be having subsequent blasts about accommodations, but we'll at least get you started with the technology pieces of that and start answering some of those questions. We also would like to know your topic ideas for future blasts. What's the hot topic out there? We need to get you the answers. Remember that this is a production of the Montana Digital Professional Learning Network and Innovative Educational Consulting, and be sure that you join us every Tuesday for the next few weeks to get your hot information about SBAC technology readiness. Okay, Christine, take it away and finish up with your questions. Thanks everybody for coming into the room today.
Okay, Doug, I wanted to say on your accommodation sessions questions, I may not be able to get that answered right now, but I will email you with the results on that question and make sure it's in next week. Another question was, when will the blast start next week? In order to answer questions, and we will start 5 minutes early. And any questions that were not answered this week, I will reiterate and make sure there's an answer for next week's blast at 25 after the hour. So Doug, I'm sorry, I will, I don't know that I can answer that question on the accommodation. And the question is, in planning accommodation sessions, we will have multiple students needing read aloud accommodation. Will grade level questions be the same this year on the pilot, or are there numerous versions? I know next year the test will be adaptive. And again, I'm sorry I don't have that question, but I will contact Judy Snow and I will get that information to you after this session. And again, we're going back to the question Colette had on the calculator, and she's asking, and I need Gary to answer this. In other words, what does the 12% mean on the diagnostic, or I mean on the calculator?
Can you hear me?
It's scratchy. It's scratchy.
To me, that 12% meant that we were using 12% of the bandwidth of our internet connection at that point. So that test that you saw the results of was run when there was no one else in the building, there was nothing else going on, and that allowed me to say that I need 12% of my bandwidth to take that test, so that I don't have to shut everybody else down. I know that I've got another 78% that could be used by teachers for other issues. But that's why you would want to run the test a number of times to make sure that you're seeing results that are the same. If I see 12% when there's nobody on the network, but then I see a result of 50% when I have a school day going on, I would be concerned and make some changes in who can be on the network when we are testing.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And I wanted to also answer on the scratch paper and the calculator question. Mike Pulaski has answered and said yes, they can have scratch paper, and no, they cannot have their own calculator. And Cindy, I think I answered your question about what time are you starting the question and answer session part of the blast next week. Again, it's not, it's just to answer questions from the previous blast that had not been answered so that everyone has the advantage of knowing what those are. And the time is 9:25. Okay. And then Rod White asks,
Christine, this is Kathleen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. We just decided that it might be better just to stay on longer and try and get as many of the questions answered rather than coming on at the first the next week, because then that changes our start time. So let's put the blast time at 9:30, and then we'll get you as much information as we can right after the blast each week.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. So anyway, I'm sorry, we will not be starting at 9:25. We'll just stay a little bit later and try to get everyone's questions answered. And I will, again, I think what I will do too is have a document that I'll post on our website under each blog that will have answers to the questions as well, that you can download those and not have to wait a week to get the answers. So we are going back to Rod White was asking, is the number of students on the calculator total or ones, are the total or the ones we would test? And you can use that calculator for however way you want to do it. You can run it more than once, and you can set it up by school, you can set it up by grade level, any way that you would like to run it. And that way it will give you an idea of how many testing hours you might need per grade level, how many you would need for the whole school, for the whole district, whichever. Again, it's a tool for you to use in any way you choose. And Kim Schwabe is asking, is there a generic username and password to use to access the TA practice and training site, or should we just use the practice test for now? Gary, do you have the answers to that? I think I have an idea, but I'm not positive if I have the right answer yet. Gary?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. The practice and training tests are already set up in the secure browser. And when you log in to take either the practice or training test on the secure browser, it fills in with guest. So if you take the practice test or the training test, you start over every time, and you still use the same login. It's all there. You just click to go in, and then you can set up any accommodations that are listed there and try each of them.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And I see that Scott Geiser is asking, should I have received the Tide login password info? I believe they're just starting to compile them this week. Again, you can refer to that February 5th JUMP newsletter. It does have specific information in there on the logins and how to get into that test if you have not received your login information yet. Oh, and this says from Kelly, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Kelly. I'm sorry. It says that, and I think that there's the February 12th JUMP newsletter has an incorrect website listed for our for metasbac.org. So I will contact Judy Snow's office and make sure that gets corrected. Thank you for letting me know that. And Kelly is also asking, what happens if the calculator does not come up? Kelly, we'll have to contact you, and and can you type down what school district you're from and maybe your email address so that I can contact you about that, because I've not had that issue come up before. Gary, have you ever heard of that?
I have not. I have not heard of the calculator not working.
Okay. All right. I would say try the link. Make sure that the link is correct. You might want to try going to and maybe if it is incorrect on our website, please let me know. I did go through and check every one of those links to verify them, but hopefully I didn't miss verifying any of those. Okay, and there's Kelly's information. Thank you, Kelly. And those are all the questions that we have right now. I think we answered most of them. And if you have any others, please type them in right now, or otherwise we will end the session. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you both, Gary and Christine, both of those folks and all the Meta folks out there. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Remember, folks, this is a field test, and we have a lot of people here to help and a lot of information coming at you. So please, let's stay in the network and get our questions answered. Christine, Gary, have a great day. Montana educators out there, you have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday to start talking a little bit about accommodations. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.